I'm Ingrid, 33 years old, and last week I handed my parents a single piece of paper that made my mother collapse onto her knees. 15 years ago, my dying grandmother left me her entire life savings, $180,000, because she was the only one who saw how my parents treated me compared to my golden child sister. She wanted to give me a fighting chance. My parents intercepted that inheritance. They used every penny to buy my sister Monica a house. When I found out and confronted them, my father looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't be selfish. It's free money anyway." I was 18. I had nothing, and I believed, for years, that I deserved nothing. But 15 years changes a person, and so does the truth. Before I tell you what happened at their 40th anniversary party, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where my listeners are from. Now, let me take you back to the day everything began. The day my grandmother was admitted to the hospital. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and fading flowers. I was 17, sitting beside my grandmother Margaret's bed, holding her hand like I'd done every Sunday for the past 3 years. She squeezed my fingers weakly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You're the only one who shows up, sweetheart. Remember that when everyone else forgets." I didn't understand what she meant, not then. My mother hadn't visited in 2 weeks. "Too busy," she said. Monica, my older sister, the golden child, hadn't come at all. She was planning her 21st birthday party, a big one. 50 guests, a DJ, a custom dress flown in from New York. I remember my 16th birthday that same year. Mom baked a cake. 4 of us sat around the kitchen table, done by 8 p.m. That was the difference between Monica and me. She got fireworks. I got leftovers. Grandma Margaret saw it. She always did. "I've prepared something for you," she whispered, her eyes suddenly sharp despite the morphine. "Don't let anyone take it away, especially—" She stopped, coughed. "Especially who, Grandma?" But she just shook her head and closed her eyes. I thought she was confused. The doctor said the medication made her say strange things sometimes. I kissed her forehead and told her I'd be back tomorrow. She held my hand tighter. "Promise me," she said. "Promise me you'll remember what you're worth." I promised. I didn't know what I was promising. I was 17 and still believed that if I tried hard enough, if I was good enough, my parents would eventually love me the same way they loved Monica. I was wrong, but I wouldn't find that out for another 2 weeks. Grandma Margaret died on a Tuesday. I was in calculus class when my phone buzzed. Mom's text was 3 words. "Grandma's gone. Come home. No, I'm sorry. No, are you okay? Just instructions." I cried the entire bus ride home. When I walked through the door, Monica was on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Mom was in the kitchen making phone calls about the funeral arrangements. Dad was nowhere to be seen. No one hugged me. No one asked how I was feeling. The funeral was 4 days later. Monica arrived 30 minutes late because of traffic. Mom immediately went to comfort her. Poor Monica, so stressed from the drive. I stood alone by the casket, saying goodbye to the only person in my family who ever made me feel seen. After the service, I overheard my parents in the kitchen. I was in the hallway, invisible as always. "The lawyer called," Dad said. His voice was low. "There's a problem with the will." "What kind of problem?" Mom's voice had an edge I didn't recognize. "I'll handle it, just don't let the girls know." I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding. What problem? What were they hiding? But I didn't ask. I was too afraid of causing more stress, too worried about making things worse, too conditioned to believe that good daughters don't question their parents. So I stayed silent. I went to my room and stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m., replaying Grandma's words in my head. "Don't let anyone take it away." Take what away? 2 weeks later, I would find out exactly what she meant. But the answer wouldn't come from my parents. It would come from a book, a hidden envelope, and a truth that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. 2 weeks after the funeral, I volunteered to clean out Grandma Margaret's apartment. No one else wanted to do it. Monica said it was too depressing. Mom claimed she was too overwhelmed. Dad just shrugged. So I went alone. Her place still smelled like her, lavender soap and old books. I started in the living room, boxing up her things, crying into her favorite cardigan. Then I found it. Tucked inside her worn copy of Little Women, the book she'd read to me every summer as a child, was a small envelope. My name was written on it in her familiar handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. A note. Ingrid, my darling girl, I've left you everything I have. Attorney Patterson has all the documents. Don't trust anyone else, especially your mother. I love you more than you'll ever know. Grandma. I read it 3 times. Everything she had? Grandma lived simply. She wore the same 3 dresses on rotation. She clipped coupons. I always assumed she had nothing. But the note said everything. And she'd warned me not to trust my own mother. I folded the paper carefully and tucked it into my wallet. My mind was racing. What did Grandma leave me? Why would she warn me about Mom? What had my parents been whispering about in the kitchen? That night, I decided to ask. I found Mom in the living room watching TV. My voice shook when I spoke. Mom, did Grandma leave me anything? She didn't even look away from the screen. Your grandmother barely had anything, sweetheart. What little she had went to funeral costs. She was lying. I knew it in my bones. But I didn't have proof. Not yet. I pushed harder. But I found a note, I said, pulling the paper from my pocket. Grandma wrote that she left me everything. She mentioned a lawyer named Patterson. Mom's face changed. Just for a second, a flash of something cold crossed her eyes. Then she smiled. That patient, dismissive smile I knew too well. Sweetheart, your grandmother was very sick at the end. She didn't know what she was writing. It's her handwriting. She was lucid when... Are you calling me a liar? Mom's voice sharpened. Your grandmother just died, and you want to make this about money? My stomach dropped. The guilt hit me like a wave. I'm not trying to... After everything we've done for you. She shook her head. I can't believe my own daughter would accuse me of something so horrible. Dad walked in then. What's going on? Nothing, Mom said quickly. Ingrid's just tired. Aren't you, honey? I looked at Dad, hoping for something. An ally. An explanation. He just stared at me with that blank expression he always wore when Mom was handling things. Go to bed, Ingrid. You've had a long day. I went, but I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, turning Grandma's note over in my hands. Don't trust anyone else, especially your mother. She'd known. Somehow, she'd known this would happen. I was 18 in 3 months. I had no money, no car, no allies. If I pushed harder, they'd turn Monica against me. They'd make me the villain, the ungrateful daughter who cared more about inheritance than family. So I made a decision. I would wait. I would survive. And when the time was right, I would find out the truth. It took me 7 years, but I never forgot. 6 months later, everything became clear. I was 18 now, freshly graduated from high school. College acceptance letters sat on my desk, good schools, schools that could change my life, but they all required money I didn't have. That's when Monica made her announcement. We were at Sunday dinner, a rare family gathering. Monica was glowing, practically bouncing in her seat. So, she said, I have news. Mom and Dad bought me a house. I dropped my fork. A house? It's adorable. 3 bedrooms, big backyard, perfect for when Tyler and I get married. She held up her phone, showing photos. Look at the kitchen. I looked at my parents. You bought her a house? Dad nodded, chest puffed with pride. Your sister deserves stability. How much? I asked. Mom waved her hand. That's not important. How much? Dad's eyes narrowed. 180,000. We saved our whole lives for this. $180,000. The exact amount a person might call everything I have. My voice came out strangled. And what about my college tuition? Mom sighed. Ingrid, you know we don't have unlimited resources. You'll need to get scholarships, work part-time, lots of kids do it. But you just spent… Monica needs a home. You're young. You have time. I looked at my sister. She was still admiring the photos, oblivious to the bomb exploding in my chest. Congratulations, Monica, I said. My voice didn't even shake. I'd learned to hide my pain by then. That night, I did the math, the timeline, the numbers. Grandma died. 2 weeks later, there was a problem with the will. 2 months after that, my parents suddenly had enough money to buy a house. I wasn't paranoid. I was right. I couldn't sleep that night. Grandma's note burned in my wallet. Her warning echoed in my skull. The numbers didn't lie, $180,000, appearing from nowhere, right after she died. The next morning, I found Dad in the garage, tinkering with his car. I stood in the doorway until he noticed me. The house, I said. Where did the money really come from? He didn't look up. I told you, savings. You've never had that kind of savings. Watch your tone. Was it from Grandma's estate? He stopped working, set down his wrench. When he turned to face me, his expression was stone. There was no estate. She had nothing. I found a note. She said she left me everything. She was confused. She wasn't confused. Drop it, Ingrid. I can't. I need to know. I said drop it. His voice went cold. Now. We stared at each other. For the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes that scared me. Not anger, something worse. Fear. He was afraid of what I might find. Fine, I said. I'll drop it. I turned and walked away. But I didn't drop anything. That afternoon I told Monica about Grandma's note. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd be on my side. She laughed. Ingrid, seriously? Grandma was old. She didn't know what she was writing. She was perfectly lucid. You're being paranoid, and honestly, kind of greedy. I stared at my sister, my golden child sister, sitting in my parents' house, planning her life in my grandmother's money. You're right, I said. I'm sure it's nothing. But it was everything. I just couldn't prove it yet. I tried one more time, with Mom. Please, I said, just tell me the truth. Did Grandma leave me anything? She started crying, actual tears streaming down her face. I can't believe you're doing this to me, she sobbed. Your grandmother just died. Our family is grieving, and all you can think about is money? That's not… Do you know how hard your father works? How much he sacrifices for this family, and you're accusing him of stealing? I never said stealing. You're tearing this family apart, Ingrid. Is that what you want? I felt myself shrinking. The guilt was suffocating. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Grandma really was confused. Maybe I was the selfish one. I'm sorry, I whispered. Mom wiped her tears, patted my hand. I forgive you, sweetheart. Let's never speak of this again. I nodded. I was 18 years old. No money, no proof, no allies, just a dead grandmother's note and a family that closed ranks the moment I asked questions. So I made a choice. I stopped asking. I got 3 part-time jobs. I enrolled in community college. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I moved into a tiny apartment with 2 roommates and started building a life that didn't depend on anyone. I didn't have proof. I didn't have money. I didn't have anyone. But I had time. And I had patience. Grandma Margaret told me to remember what I was worth. I decided to prove it. To myself, if no one else. I waited. 7 years. And then, one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, a letter arrived that changed everything. The return address read, Gerald Patterson, attorney at law. My grandmother's lawyer had finally found me. Let me fast forward, 7 years later. I was 25, working as a junior accountant at a mid-sized firm. I'd earned my degree through night classes while working full-time. I had a small apartment, a reliable car, and zero debt. I'd also had almost no contact with my family in 3 years. They stopped calling after I declined to attend Monica's wedding. I couldn't afford the flight, and no one offered to help. The letter came on a Tuesday. I remember staring at the return address for a full minute before opening it. Gerald Patterson, the name from Grandma's note. My hands shook as I unfolded the paper. Dear Ms. Dyer, I was your grandmother Margaret Hayes's estate attorney. I've been trying to locate you for several years. There are matters regarding her will that we need to discuss urgently. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. Respectfully, Gerald Patterson. I read it 5 times. Then I called the number. A receptionist answered, professional and crisp. I explained who I was. Mr. Patterson has been hoping you'd call, she said. Can you come in this week? I took the first available appointment. 2 days later, I sat in a leather chair across from a silver-haired man in his late 60s. His office smelled like old books and furniture polish. Diplomas lined the walls. Thank you for coming, Ms. Dyer, he said, folding his hands on the desk. I apologize it took so long to find you. Your parents made communication difficult. My throat tightened. What do you mean? He opened a folder. Inside were documents, official-looking, notarized. Your grandmother left you $180,000, he said. You were her sole beneficiary. The room tilted. That's not possible. My parents said, I know what your parents told you, and I know what they told me. Mr. Patterson slid the folder across the desk. Your parents told me you agreed to forfeit the inheritance, he said. That you wanted the money to go to the family. I was 17. No one told me anything. He nodded slowly. I was concerned about that. I tried to contact you directly. Your father said you were unwell, that you'd asked them to handle everything on your behalf. That's a lie. I suspected as much. He reached into a drawer. Which is why I kept these. Another envelope, larger, my name on the front in familiar handwriting. A letter your grandmother wrote for you, he said. She gave it to me with specific instructions. I was supposed to deliver it in person, only to you, but your parents intercepted every attempt I made. I took the envelope with trembling hands. There's also a copy of the original will inside, he continued. Notarized and witnessed. Legally, the inheritance was yours from the moment she passed. Then how? Your parents acted as your guardians. You were still 17 when the estate was processed. By the time you turned 18, the money had already been transferred. He paused. To them. I couldn't breathe. Is there anything I can do? Legally? The statute of limitations for challenging the transfer has passed. I'm sorry, Ms. Dyer. His voice softened. But you deserve to know the truth, and you deserve to read what your grandmother wanted you to know. I thanked him. Somehow. I don't remember the words. I drove to a park 3 blocks away, sat in my car, and opened my grandmother's letter. 20 minutes later, I was still reading, tears streaming down my face. And then I screamed. Not from sadness, from rage. Let me pause here for a second. I know some of you are thinking, why didn't you confront them immediately? Believe me, I thought about it. But I was 25, still rebuilding my life. I knew my parents would deny everything. So here's my question. If you were me, would you have confronted them right away? Or waited until you had undeniable proof? Comment 1 for confront, 2 for wait. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. It really helps. Now, back to what was in that letter. Grandma Margaret's handwriting filled 3 pages. I'll share the parts that matter most. My dearest Ingrid, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I can only hope this letter found its way to you despite your mother's interference. I know how they treat you. I've watched it for years. The way they pour everything into Monica and leave you with the scraps. The way they dismiss your achievements and celebrate hers. The way they've made you believe you deserve less. You don't deserve less. You deserve everything. This money is my life savings. I was never rich, but I was careful. For 40 years I put away a little each month. It was supposed to be for your mother, but I watched how she treats you, and I cannot reward that cruelty. You are the only one who visits me, the only one who listens, the only one who sees me as more than an obligation. This money is your escape, your education, your future. Don't let anyone take it from you, especially your mother. She will try. She has always resented how much I love you. Be stronger than she expects. Be braver than you think you can be. And remember, your worth is not determined by how your family treats you. I love you, my darling girl, more than words can say. Grandma. I sat in my car until the sun went down. My grandmother had seen everything. She tried to protect me from beyond the grave, and my parents had stolen that protection without a second thought. I could confront them now. I had evidence. But evidence alone wouldn't be enough. They'd deny it, gaslight me, turn the family against me. No. If I was going to do this, I needed to do it right. I needed them to have nowhere to hide. I started planning. 8 more years passed. Let me tell you what changed. I threw myself into my career. Junior accountant became senior accountant, became financial analyst at one of the big 4 firms. I bought a townhouse with my own money. I built a life that had nothing to do with the family that abandoned me. And I made a friend who would become my secret weapon. Chloe Brennan. We met in grad school. She was studying forensic accounting. The kind of person who could trace money through a maze of shell companies and come out the other side with receipts. When I told her my story, she got that look in her eyes, the one that said, "Challenge accepted." "Let me dig," she said. "I'll find the paper trail." She did. Bank records showing $180,000 deposited into my parents' joint account 2 weeks after Grandma died. Transfer records showing the exact same amount going to a down payment on Monica's house 3 weeks later. Every dollar, traced and documented. Meanwhile, karma was doing its own work. Monica's marriage fell apart after 5 years. Her husband cheated. She sold the house, at a loss, because the market crashed. Moved back in with our parents. Dad made a series of bad investments, lost most of his retirement. Mom developed health issues that insurance didn't fully cover. They burned through their savings. Then they burned through their credit. Last year, they sold their house to pay off debts, moved into a small rental. I watched from a distance, didn't interfere, didn't help, didn't gloat. I just waited. And then, 6 months ago, my phone rang. A number I hadn't seen in years. Mom. "Ingrid, sweetheart, we need to talk." The trap was finally set. I just needed them to walk into it. Mom's voice was sweet. Too sweet. The same voice she used when she wanted something. "Your father and I are celebrating our 40th anniversary next month," she said. "We want to have a little party. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends." I waited. "The thing is, our apartment is so small now. And your place, I've seen photos on Monica's Facebook. It's beautiful, Ingrid, so spacious." There it was. "You want to have your anniversary party at my house?" "Well, yes, it would mean so much to us, family coming together again." I almost laughed. Family. After 15 years of silence, suddenly we were family again. "How many people?" "Oh, just 30 or so. I've already sent out the invitations." My grip tightened on the phone. "You already invited people? Without asking me?" "Sweetheart, you're our daughter. Family doesn't need to ask permission." Family doesn't need to ask permission. The same logic they'd used to steal my inheritance, the same entitlement that had shaped my entire childhood. I took a breath, steadied my voice. "When?" "Saturday the 15th, 2 o'clock. I let the silence stretch. Let her squirm. All right, Mom. You want Saturday? You've got Saturday. I could hear her relief through the phone. Oh, wonderful. I knew you'd understand. Blood is thicker than water, after all. It certainly is. I hung up. Then I called Chloe. It's happening, I said. I need everything ready. The financial breakdown, the will copy, and the restraining order application. You're really doing this? They invited 30 people to watch them beg me for help. The least I can do is give them an audience for the truth. Damn, girl. Remind me never to cross you. Just have everything ready by Saturday. The countdown began. Saturday arrived. I'd spent the week preparing. Catering ordered, house cleaned, documents organized in a large manila envelope tucked into the hallway closet where I could reach it when the moment came. My parents arrived early. Of course they did. They wanted to stake their claim before the guests showed up. I watched from the window as their rental car pulled into my driveway. Dad stepped out first, his eyes sweeping over my townhouse. Then Mom. Then Monica, trailing behind like a shadow. They stood there for a moment, just staring. I opened the front door. Welcome, I said. Come in. Dad walked through the foyer, examining everything. The hardwood floors, the modern kitchen, the carefully chosen artwork on the walls. How much did this place cost? He asked. That's not important, Dad. Monica touched the granite countertop. Did your husband buy this for you? I'm not married. Boyfriend, then? I bought it myself, with my own money. Silence. Mom recovered first. Well, you've certainly done well for yourself. I always knew you would. I almost choked on the irony. She always knew. The same woman who told me I'd have to figure out college on my own while handing my sister a house. Where do you want the food set up? I asked. The next hour was a blur of arrivals. Aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in years, cousins who'd forgotten I existed, family friends who'd attended Monica's wedding but not my graduation. 32 people in total, all there to celebrate my parents' 40 years of marriage. None of them knew why I'd really agreed to host. I circulated, smiled, played the gracious hostess, and waited. The envelope sat in the closet, patient as I'd been. Soon. The party was in full swing when Dad clinked his glass. The room quieted. Everyone turned toward him, champagne flutes in hand. Thank you all for coming, he said. 40 years. Can you believe it? Diane and I have been through so much together, good times and hard times. He paused, cleared his throat, and I saw it, that calculated vulnerability he'd perfected over decades of manipulation. As some of you know, we've faced some challenges recently. Financial setbacks, health issues. We've had to downsize. Sympathetic murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mom took his hand. Her eyes were already glistening with rehearsed tears. We actually have a small announcement, she said. We've lost our home. And we were hoping... She turned to look at me. Every eye in the room followed. We were hoping our daughter Ingrid might let us stay here, with her. Because family takes care of family. My stomach clenched. There it was. The ambush. The public guilt trip designed to make refusal impossible. She has this beautiful big house, Mom continued. And we're her parents. We raised her. Everything she has, she owes to us. Monica nodded eagerly. It's the least she could do, really, after everything Mom and Dad sacrificed. The guests were watching me now, waiting for the dutiful daughter to say yes, to fold under pressure, to be the good girl I'd always been trained to be. I set down my champagne glass. Is that so? I said quietly. Of course, sweetheart. Mom's smile was triumphant. Blood is thicker than water, you understand. I stood up. I understand perfectly, I said, and since we're making announcements in front of family, I have one of my own. I walked to the closet. The envelope was exactly where I'd left it. Time to end this. I returned to the living room, envelope in hand. The crowd watched in confused silence. You said family takes care of family, I said, my voice steady. I agree, which is why I've prepared a gift for you, Mom and Dad. I handed the envelope to my father. He took it slowly, brow furrowed, opened the flap, pulled out the papers inside. His face went white. "What is this?" he whispered. "Page 1, I said, "is an itemized financial statement. $180,000. The inheritance Grandma Margaret left specifically to me, plus 15 years of compound interest." Gasps rippled through the room. I heard someone whisper, "Inheritance?" Page 2 is a copy of Grandma's original will, notarized, witnessed, clearly naming me as her sole beneficiary. Mom grabbed the papers from Dad's hands. Her eyes darted across the text. "This is ridiculous," she stammered. "You can't prove—" "Page 3, I continued calmly, "is the bank records. Every dollar traced, your account, Monica's down payment, dates, amounts, routing numbers." Monica stepped forward. "What is she talking about?" "Your house," I said, turning to face my sister. "The one Mom and Dad bought you 15 years ago? That was my money, my inheritance. Grandma left it to me, and they stole it." The room erupted. Whispers became exclamations. Relatives looked at each other in shock. My great-aunt Helen, Grandma Margaret's sister, stood up from her chair. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Diane, is this true?" My mother's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. I reached into the envelope and pulled out the final document. "And this," I said, "is a restraining order. You have 30 days to cease all contact with me." Mom collapsed onto her knees. I didn't flinch. Chaos erupted. Dad found his voice first. "This is ridiculous. You can't prove anything." "Page 5, Dad. Bank records don't lie. You fabricated these documents." "The bank provided them. So did the county recorder's office." I kept my voice level. "Everything is verified, time-stamped, legal." Mom was sobbing on the floor now, mascara running down her cheeks. "How could you do this to us? We're your parents." "You stole from me," I said simply. "I was 17. Grandma tried to give me a future. You took it." Monica stepped between us, her face twisted with anger. "You have no right." "To what? To tell the truth?" I looked at her steadily. "That house you lived in for 10 years? It was bought with money meant for my education. Every mortgage payment you didn't make, every comfort you enjoyed, that was mine. I didn't know." "Maybe, but you knew something was wrong. You just didn't want to ask questions." Great Aunt Helen pushed through the crowd. Her voice trembled with barely controlled fury. "Diane, Richard, answer me. Did you steal this child's inheritance?" Dad's jaw worked. No sound came out. Mom just kept crying. The silence was its own confession. Helen turned to the other guests. 40 years I've known this family. 40 years I watched them treat Ingrid like an afterthought. I always wondered why Margaret left everything to her granddaughter instead of her own daughter." She shook her head. "Now I know." The guests began to murmur. Some looked at my parents with disgust. Others couldn't meet anyone's eyes. I picked up the restraining order from where Mom had dropped it. "You have 30 days, I said. After that, any contact will be reported to the police." Then I walked out of my own living room. I needed air. I stood in my backyard, breathing in the cool evening air. Behind me, I could hear the party dissolving. Car doors slamming, hushed voices, the chaos of my revelation settling into reality. Footsteps on the patio. I turned. Great Aunt Helen stood there, her expression soft. "You did the right thing," she said. "Did I?" My voice cracked slightly. "I just destroyed my family in front of 30 people." "No, sweetheart. They destroyed your family 15 years ago. You just finally told the truth." She opened her arms. I stepped into them and let myself cry for the first time all day. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you," Helen whispered. "She always said you were the strong one, the one who would survive." We stood there until the tears stopped. When I walked back inside, most of the guests were gone. Only my parents and Monica remained, huddled in the corner, like they were waiting for a verdict. I stopped in front of them. "I'm not doing this to be cruel," I said. "I'm doing it because the truth matters. Because Grandma's wishes mattered. Because I mattered. Mom reached for my hand. Please, Ingrid, we can work this out. We're family. I stepped back. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't gaslight a 17-year-old into believing she's worthless. I took a breath. I spent 15 years building a life without you. I'll spend the rest of my life keeping it that way. I pointed to the door. Leave, now. Dad helped Mom to her feet. Monica grabbed her purse. None of them said a word. The door clicked shut behind them. I stood in my empty living room, surrounded by abandoned champagne glasses and catering trays. And for the first time in 15 years, I felt free. The fallout came in waves. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, some offering support, others demanding explanations. Aunt Helen called first. I want you to know, she said, that I'm cutting contact with your parents. What they did was unforgivable. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Margaret was my sister. She trusted them to do right by you. They betrayed that trust. Her voice hardened. Some things can't be forgiven. Within a week, I learned that 3 other relatives had done the same. Not because I asked, I didn't. They simply couldn't look at my parents the same way anymore. Then came the call I wasn't expecting. Monica. Her voice was small, hesitant, nothing like the confident golden child I'd grown up with. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't know where the money came from. Does it matter? It matters to me, she paused. I'm sorry, Ingrid, for everything, for the way I treated you, for not questioning where that house came from. I sat with that for a moment. I don't need your apology, Monica. What I need is for you to take responsibility for your own life. Stop expecting other people to fund your existence, she started crying. I didn't comfort her. That wasn't my job anymore. We're not going to have a relationship, I said. Not now. Maybe not ever. But if you really want to change, stop making excuses and start making choices. I hung up before she could respond. Some people found that cruel. But I'd spent 17 years being kind to people who used my kindness against me. I was done being a doormat. It was time to be something else. A survivor. 3 months passed. I got updates through Aunt Helen, who heard things through the family grapevine. My parents were living with a friend from Dad's old job, a temporary arrangement that was quickly wearing thin. They couldn't afford their own place. Social Security barely covered their basics. The calculated amount I'd shown them, $180,000 plus 15 years of interest, came to roughly $350,000. They didn't have a fraction of that. They'd burned through everything with bad investments, Monica's failed marriage, and years of living beyond their means. I never expected them to pay it back. That wasn't the point. The point was that they knew I knew, that everyone knew, that the truth was finally, irrevocably out in the open. The restraining order held. No contact, no letters, no ambush visits. For the first time in my life, I had legal protection from the people who were supposed to protect me. Some might call that sad. I call it freedom. I donated $20,000 to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. I named it after my grandmother. The Margaret Hayes Memorial Scholarship. Every year it helps someone like me, someone who has to build their future from scratch because the people who should have helped chose not to. That felt right. That felt like something Grandma would have wanted. I didn't need their money. I'd built my own wealth, my own career, my own life. What I needed was for the lie to end, for the gaslighting to stop, for the truth to matter. And now it did. Not through revenge, not through cruelty, just through facts, documents, and the courage to speak them out loud. Some families break you. The best revenge is building yourself back up anyway. I want to pause here for a moment. A lot of you might be wondering, did I feel guilty? Did I regret exposing them in front of everyone? The answer is no. I didn't destroy my family. They destroyed it 15 years ago when they chose to steal from their own daughter. If you've ever had to set a hard boundary with someone who hurt you, comment boundary. I'd love to hear your stories, and if this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Now let me tell you how this story ends. A year has passed since the anniversary party. I'm standing in my living room now, the same room where everything fell apart. But it doesn't feel haunted anymore. It feels like mine. On the shelf by the window, there's a photograph of Grandma Margaret. It's the only thing I kept from her apartment. A picture of us at the beach when I was 7. She's laughing, her arms wrapped around me, and I'm grinning so wide my eyes are practically closed. I talk to her sometimes. Is that strange? Probably, but I think she'd understand. I kept my promise, Grandma, I say to the photo. I didn't let them take what mattered most. Not the money. The money was gone the moment they took it. What mattered was the lesson she tried to teach me, that my worth wasn't determined by how my family treated me. It took me 15 years to learn that. 15 years of working 3 jobs, putting myself through school, building a career from nothing. 15 years of therapy to unpack the gaslighting and the guilt and the belief that I somehow deserved less. But I learned it. And now, standing in my own home, with my own success, surrounded by people who actually care about me, I finally believe it. I don't need my parents to acknowledge what they did. I don't need Monica's apology to be real. I don't need anyone's validation to know that I matter. I know it myself. That's what Grandma wanted for me. Not the money, though that would have helped. She wanted me to understand that I was worthy of love, of respect, of a future. She saw me when no one else did, and now I see myself. That's worth more than any inheritance. This Thanksgiving was different. I hosted dinner at my house, the same house where everything changed a year ago. But the guest list looked nothing like that anniversary party. Chloe came, of course. She brought her girlfriend and a bottle of wine that cost more than my first month's rent used to be. 2 colleagues from work, people who'd become real friends over late nights and shared deadlines. And Aunt Helen. She drove 3 hours to be there. We sat around my dining table, passing dishes and telling stories, and something occurred to me. This was the family I'd built. Not the one I was born into, the one I chose. Aunt Helen raised her glass. To Margaret, she said, who always knew Ingrid was the strong one. To Grandma, I echoed. After dinner, Aunt Helen and I washed dishes together, side by side at the sink, just like Grandma and I used to do. Do you miss them? She asked. Your parents? I thought about it. I miss the parents I wished they were, I said finally. The ones who would have loved me the same as Monica. The ones who would have honored Grandma's wishes. I shrugged. But those parents never existed, so I guess I miss a fantasy. Helen nodded slowly. Family isn't blood, sweetheart. Family is the people who choose to love you the right way. I looked around my house. At Chloe laughing on the couch. At my colleagues playing cards. At Helen drying dishes with the same dish towel Grandma used to use. Yeah, I said. I think I finally understand that. This is my life now. Not perfect, not pain-free, but mine. Built from scratch. Held together by choice. And that makes it more valuable than anything that could have been handed to me. Looking back, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand why my parents did what they did. Not to forgive them, I don't think I'll ever do that, but to make sense of it. Here's what I've come to understand after years of therapy and reflection. My parents weren't monsters. They were deeply flawed people who made a terrible choice and then spent 15 years rationalizing it. Monica was born premature. She spent her first 2 years in and out of hospitals. My parents developed an instinct to protect her, to give her extra, to compensate for those scary early days. By the time I came along, healthy and independent, they'd already decided that Monica was the one who needed more. And me? I was the easy one. The one who didn't cry. The one who figured things out on her own. They told themselves I would be fine, that I didn't need the same support. They were wrong. My mother resented her own mother for loving me more. That resentment curdled into justification when Grandma's money came. In her mind, she wasn't stealing, she was correcting an injustice, redistributing resources to the daughter who needed it. It's twisted logic, but it's human logic. That's the scariest part. And what about me? What was my weakness? I was afraid of conflict. I believed that if I was good enough, quiet enough, accommodating enough, my parents would finally see me. I spent 17 years trying to earn love that should have been given freely. That belief kept me silent. It let them gaslight me. It nearly broke me. But here's the lesson I want to leave you with. Your silence might feel like survival, but sometimes it's just slow suffocation. You don't owe loyalty to people who betray you, and demanding the truth isn't selfish. It's the most profound act of self-respect you can perform. If you're waiting for someone to see your worth, stop waiting. See it yourself first. The right people will follow. Family is not an excuse for cruelty. Blood is not a free pass. And you are allowed to build walls around your heart when the people who should protect it keep trying to tear it down. That's my story. 15 years of silence and one single piece of paper that changed everything. If you've made it this far, thank you. Truly. Your support means more than you know. Now let me leave you with one final thought. Before you go, I have a question for you. What would you have done differently? Would you have confronted them sooner? Would you have let it go entirely? Or would you have done exactly what I did, waited until the moment was right? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, about family, betrayal, and finding your own justice, check out the video in the description. I think you'll love it. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, you are worth more than how anyone treats you.